In this tutorial, we are going to go through absolute basics of using SixDOF plugin. A quick note before we start, since at the moment SixDOF isn't on official UE4 marketplace yet, you can only get it from Gumroad, and from Gumroad installation is manual, so it needs to be copied into current version of your engine. At the moment I support 4.13 and 4.14. In either case, it needs to go to engine, plugins, runtime, like this. And once it gets to the marketplace, it's gonna go to plugins / marketplace, like all other plugins. So once that's done, you need to, of course, enable it for your current project. It's over here, and once it's enabled, you are going to have to restart the editor. I have already done that, so we can start now. So let's say you have an actor here that you want to turn into, well, a moving spaceship. So I've already turned this into a blueprint actor. And to be more precise, it's a pawn, so it's possible to control it either with AI controller or with player controller. And of course I have here set it to auto process player 0, so when I start the game, it's gonna vote. Okay, and it doesn't really do anything yet, but as you can see, it has camera and you can see the actor from third person. So let's add the actual SixDOF component to it. Just type in 6 and there it is. Now, unlike my previous plugins, this is a movement component, so it can really go anywhere and it will automatically pick which is the root mesh of the actor. So in this case it's a static mesh, but of course it also works with skeletal meshes and actually anything that can have a collision box and can move. Next thing we need to do is to, of course, add some means to control this ship. So in the project settings I have already created some axis mappings. Just forward to move backwards and forwards, and right to move right and left. And now in our actual ship blueprint, I'm going to, every time the forward input event gets fired, I'm going to take this component and set forward input to this new value. I am going to do the same for right, like this. And that's actually all that needs to be done. Really, you can now move the actor. By the way, nothing extra needs to be done in multiplayer. This will automatically be replicated. So let's add a couple more input events, namely mouse X. This will be our yaw input. That would be set yaw input. And let's add mouse Y to each input. Like this. And now I can also look around with the mouse. Of course, you are not limited to just this particular set of movement parameters. Everything can be changed. Here you can set up maximum speed for each axis. You can set the amount of inertia. Okay, this probably needs to be explained if you're not familiar with this. Inertia is sort of how quickly the ship will adapt to your new input. So I have increased the inertia for movement. So now, as you can see, if I let go of the controls, it will take longer for it to slow down, and of course it will also take longer for it to speed up. And if I set it to 0, this will be instant, so like this. You also have multiple acceleration modes. Exponential is just like typical video game physics as you would expect from like Descent Clone, but you have other options like linear. Linear is an approximation of how a ship would behave if it was controlled by sort of reaction thrusters, and it would otherwise be in a vacuum. So let's show how it looks like. So the acceleration and deceleration is very linear, and other option is square, which is approximate air resistance. So the speed changes with square of airspeed. So it looks like this. So the initial change of speed is quick, but it takes a very long time for it to come to a complete halt, because with decreasing speed, the amount of air resistance also drops. And finally we have frictionless, which is of course a complete vacuum. So once you get it to move, it will never stop unless you apply controls in other direction. Of course, all this also can be done with rotation, so we can have like frictionless rotation, and if you move mouse, the rotation of the ship will continue to infinity unless you apply opposite input. And next, we can also apply gravity. You can either use the global gravity as set in world settings. So by default it will just go down like this, but you can also turn on use gravity vector, and when that's enabled, this input will override the global gravity. So let's say we want it to accelerate to the side, and you can do that. Of course, this vector can be changed in runtime, so it's possible to have even like spherical gravity sources, and of course with acceleration set to frictionless, you can even get it to orbit some planet as in reality. and you can also apply wind to your actor. And of course, this only works if the acceleration isn't set to frictionless, because of course with frictionless there's no air to push against it. So what else we have? Collision. Now there are two ways to handle collisions. You can either have a sort of unphysical sweep motion. So let me reset the gravity vector. Okay, this is similar to how characters move in Unreal. So it will just collide and slide against any obstacle. However, it is also possible to switch to physical mode, in which case it will realistically bounce and so on. And this is done simply by taking the parent mesh and turning on simulate physics on it. And the plugin will automatically recognize that the mesh is physically simulated, and instead of directly moving it, it will apply physical forces to it, similar to how EasyFM works. And I also recommend turning off gravity here, and this will allow you to control it from the plugin. Otherwise, it will be constantly applied by physics. So now that I have turned it on, as you can see, it behaves the same, except when I hit some obstacle, it will begin to bounce as if it was a physics object.